I got it all wrong.
Welcome to the Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast with Aaron Shriver, brought to you by Arlo Revolution. Each week, Aaron connects melodies and memories with fans and artists from all genres of life. When all else in life is gone, only music will be left to leave the legacy of life's adventures. Please welcome your host for the Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast, Aaron Shriver.
Hey, what's up, guys? Ooh, it's gonna be a fun Wednesday night show. You all right over there?
I'm good.
All right, guys. We're going to make sure we're all good on the audio feed. If you guys are listening in, let us know where you're from tonight. Let us know how it sounds. We're going to test everything before I can really get the show up and running. Tonight's my awesome wife's first show behind the board tonight. So, first full show taking over for JC. So we'll see how this goes.
I got this.
How's it sound? Sound good to you?
Sounds good. We're ready to go.
All right, guys. Welcome to season 4 of the Gaining Fast on Memphis podcast. Each week, we connect melodies and memories with fans, artists, and motivated individuals in and around the music community and really any positivity communities you could find. I'm your host, Aaron Shriver. Tonight, we are presented by our good friends at Arlo Revolution, cinematic wedding films, music videos, and promos. Find them all over the place at arlorevolution.com. And then our 2 on-screen sponsors tonight, Art on a Higher Wire by Joel, original and custom artwork inspired by your life moments, treasured photos, and memories. You can find them all over Facebook. And then my good buddy, Corey Oliphant, of the Original Church Choir. I'm honored each week to have them as a sponsor. They played such a big part in the show. But we thank all of our sponsors for the continued support and growth of this show. If you're looking for ways to support the show, we talk about it every week. The heart of our show is our Patreon page. Tiers start just at $1. We have a couple spots left where you can do on-screen advertisements, see your logo displayed every week. So really cool stuff. But if Patreon is something you can't do, the next best way to support the show is like, share, review, and subscribe anywhere you can find us. If you're an iPhone user especially, please help us grow the show with a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. If you're listening to this on a streaming platform, remember, join us live every Tuesday night when you can. You can interact with everybody on Facebook, YouTube, great chats. It's going to be fun, man. We've got a really good lineup this season, so I can't wait. All right, guys. So speaking of Patreon, I'm trying to rush through because I want to get to our guest tonight. It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited about this one, about debuting tonight. So let's see this picture. All right. So, guys, if you guys have checked out our Patreon, this is our current giveaway right now. Awesome Ray Fulcher prize pack with a Jeremy Spillman Divine Devils book. Check all this stuff up. The book is autographed, too, by the way. So there might be an autographed Ray Fulcher picture in there too, but some good stuff. Let's see. Instagram. If you guys did not see, my old Instagram is getting shut down. I do not know what happened to it. They told me a third-party site got into it and started treating it as a bot. So I lost all those followers, shut it down. I started over. If you guys see me out there, hit the follow button. If you can, share it for me, and let's help grow that page up again. It kind of sucks, but we'll get it back going again. We'll have it going. Let's see. All right. And then last one before we move on to the thing. This Sunday, I am traveling back down to Nashville. If you guys are in the area or if you make it out, you do not want to miss this one. It's going to be an amazing songwriters rounds at Live Oak, another event by Ray's Rowdy on the road. But this one is a 50 egg takeover. So yes, Jonathan Singleton, Ray Fulcher, dude, Ashland Craft, you name it. So it's going to be in our jam-packed lineup. Get there early. Check it out. And I can't wait. So I love getting down to Nashville too. It's always fun. All right, guys, if you guys haven't literally dug into tonight's show or tonight's guest, then I cannot wait to introduce him to you guys. So I first met this guy. I haven't met him yet, but I'm really going to meet him tonight. But I first kind of got introduced to him probably about a year or so ago on Tik Tok. Of course, my wife's first show. She got me hooked on this little app. And the last couple of years, I've been dealing with a few things. And didn't really know I had anxiety until I rode a bull and tore a ligament in my thumb, and they put me in a cast. And I woke up one night, and ever since then, I've really learned my anxiety and ADHD and everything else. But whenever I'm having a really crappy day, I really just listen to Zachary and some of his stuff. So tonight we're going to kick off season 4. It's going to be an incredible special one too. We welcome in mental health activist, MD Motivator Zachery Dereniowski. Zachary has been someone I used to use as a go-to for myself in the past year. There's always been such a stigma around one's mental health, and more important, that being the mental health of guys too, just males in general. So we're going to welcome Zachary in. We're going to talk about his journey and what really kind of keeps him driven and thrives him to really end the stigma. Great.
experience. I can
There you go, buddy. Sorry, I have to bring you on. There you go. Welcome, bud.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much. It's been a long time coming because I know we were supposed to do this a few months ago and then things didn't work out, but we're here now and I'm just very excited for the opportunity. Thank you.
Dude, welcome. Yeah, I wanted to have you on. Yeah, we've been talking for a little bit to do this, and just because you've always been someone, when I watch your videos, watching you grow on TikTok too. When I first really discovered you, you probably had a quarter of what you have now. But I want to start, and we'll throw this way back like I do everybody. Kind of like when your earliest memories, man. So you are right now, you're a student doctor?
Yeah.
All right.
Medical student.
So what really drove you to the medical field, man? When you were young, you kind of had you're passionate about maybe this, or even when you're first discovered, kind of you were having anxiety or anything else. Like what really kind of pushed you in the direction you're in?
I can give a quick, like maybe a 2-minute synopsis of that and how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, he said, Sydney, I live in Australia, but I'm definitely not Australian based on the accent that you hear. I'm originally from Canada. So from Windsor, Ontario, which is a small city outside of Toronto, if anyone's familiar with that. So when I was 18 years old, I failed out of college. I had a 0.59 GPA. I remember calling the dean that day and asking him, can I get reinstated into the program? And he's like, Zachary, college just isn't right for you. Not even can you get reinstated, college just isn't for you. Going home that night, telling my parents, them saying, Zach, move out, losing my friends, and being in a really bad headspace because when I was 18, I came from a very well-off family. I was athletic and academic and like all the things were good in my life. So this identity of trying to explain things aren't okay, I had no one to fall on. So that was a really isolated and trapped feeling time of my life when I was 18. So over the next 6 years, I did essentially everything academically to prove the people in my life wrong. So it's motivating, but it's not the right reasons to pursue something. So I don't recommend anyone doing that. But along that journey, when I was 23, I suffered a life-threatening blood clot in my upper extremity, my right arm. And it took them about 10 hours to recognize what had happened. And I remember Googling that night when I was in the hospital and asking them, like, why don't you just give me this thing? It's called a thrombolytic. So it would dissolve the blood clot. So then there'd be no scar tissue, meaning there'd be no long-term damage in my arm. So just give me this thing. And they said, you can only give that the first few hours. Otherwise you risk a brain bleed and dying. Ooh. And I remember just sitting there, just so frustrated. I'm like, I'm not going to die from a brain bleed. Just give me this so I don't have the damage that I have now. And through that experience, I've come to like marinating with that. I've come to learn that I like a lot of people are really into like quick fixes in medicine, like life. Sometimes there's not a right answer. Sometimes you have to be okay with not a perfect solution, right? And I think that is what really fascinated and drew me further into medicine, was recognizing, okay, there's no quick fix. Like, I love the humanistic side and helping people, but like there's so much complexity behind it. So that was like one of those light bulb moments that, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And then I was about a year out from starting medical school and I'm like, holy smokes, I kind of have a story here. And I never used social media ever at that point in my life. Sorry, you distracted me with these photo slideshows with the story. I'm just like going down memory lane.
I try to display the journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it was a year before. I never used social media for anything. And I was like, you know what? Let me just put out my freshman year transcripts and explain my story. Maybe this will connect with one person. So I put out the transcripts that had 9 Fs and I explained it. And I'll never forget, this one person, this random guy from Vermont, reached out to me in Instagram DM and he just shared his story and he was vulnerable and real and raw. And I was blown away that social media could be used for good. Yeah. So over the next 3 months, I hosted Instagram lives with medical students, residents, and doctors around the world. And I came to understand that there was this thing called a mentor-mentee continuum of people trying to exchange knowledge both ways down this continuum. And the people that inspired me, my mentors, they were much more open to share that vulnerability, the setbacks, and that this growth wasn't linear, which helped people like me or people a little bit further down to realize, okay, they all went through it and now they want to share this. So through that, I created a formula called vulnerability equals relatability equals empowerment. And so fast forward. So through that, I started medical school in January 2020, Sydney University. I had ACL knee surgery. So I lost my physical outlet, which was basketball and working out. I went through a 6-year relationship breakup, which at the time was my identity and my happiness. Medical school was challenging. COVID happened. I couldn't go home to see my parents or family or real like ones I connected with. So I felt trapped, and all these things hit me. And it got me to a breaking point of May of 2020, which reminded me of when I was 18 years old. Just now versus then, I was much more aware and recognizing, okay, this is what I'm kind of going through, and I don't need to be the tough guy. I can seek support. So that's what I did. I sought counseling services here at the University of Sydney, which are free for medical students, which was amazing.
Nice.
And one of the things they said was, Zachary, you should, because I'm overthink. And that's another thing we can talk about, overthinking and anxiety.
Yeah.
Like the worst case scenario always playing out, or the same 2 or 3 thoughts always playing out. Like, Zach, just journal your thoughts. So I was like, okay, I went to Target that day and I bought a journal. And I remember writing it. I was like, why would I journal the thoughts here when I could kind of journal it like I journaled like my transcripts, or like just like share the realness, and maybe you'll connect with one person. So that vulnerability, relatability, empowerment formula isn't just academics. That's mental health, that's finance, that's physical health. It's just about being real to connect with people, to let them create the change, to then do the same ripple effect onto others. So social media snowballed from that in that space. Started a company with my now best friend, who I've never actually met my entire life, which is crazy. He's a psychiatry residency in the US called the Mental Health Movement, which is a clothing company to start the conversation. We have a podcast called You Matter Most Podcast. We give back monthly to mental health nonprofits globally. And we have a scholarship for students that are struggling with mental health. And I've been able to connect with people like yourself from around the world. And just, yeah, a lot's happened from being real. And that's where I'm at.
Funny, because I feel you and I are more connected than I actually really knew, because when we first started emailing, we're 2 days apart. It's like 11 years and 2 days apart, but we're both cancers. And you have family in Skokie, Illinois, I heard. I live like 20 minutes from Skokie.
Really? Okay, that's small world then. Yes.
Really close to Skokie. Because I was listening back on some of your You Matter the Most podcasts, and one of your last guests you had was from Chicago area. Her name was Fleming, I think it was. And I heard
Lindsay Fleming.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, I was like, that ain't far from us. Cause then you mentioned Windsor, dude. That's when I was a kid, dude. When I say a kid, but so Windsor, what I loved about it is you had to be 18 for everything, drinking, smoking. That was where you'd go. So when we used to go up to Windsor for Kid Rock concerts in Michigan. So we go.
Oh wow, you're throwing it back.
It was like late 90s. We go. We'd be like 18 years old. We're like, hell, get a hotel in Windsor, cross the border, go see Kid Rock, and jump back over and be able to drink at the casino and have a good time.
Louis for the Palace, and you go see him, and then you go over to the Ambassador Bridge.
Yeah, dude, it was always a good time. So. But yeah, man, I definitely watching you grow. I mean, once you really kind of got into TikTok, that's when I think when you saw one of your first videos, and it clicked on to me because you're talking about overthinking. And I have ADHD really bad. I had ADD when I was a kid. Growing up, I took Ritalin, and I kind of went off it and just kind of was doing my own thing. And then when I was kind of struggling with some stuff, and so my first time ever, I mentioned the first time ever having anxiety, I had to have surgery for the first time in my life on my right thumb. And I don't know if it triggered something or what happened, but I woke up and I had a cast on my arm and I started freaking out, like claustrophobic. Like I took a butter knife, dude, and broke this whole thing off my arm, just broke this cast right off. And they had to put me in a plastic cast that had Velcro on it. And as long as I knew I could take it off, I never did take it off, but I knew I could if I needed to. And I think that kind of tricked my head. But then I started struggling with other stuff. I got up to like 280 pounds. I was a heavy drinker at times. And I'm almost 450 days since I haven't even drank. So I've really been working on that, which has been badass for me. And then I got diagnosed bipolar, which really kind of threw me through a loop because I spent a couple months feeling like a zombie on some meds that I didn't even know what the hell they were. I just wasn't feeling right. My wife and I took this long road trip to Washington, cross country. I left my meds at home, came back, saw another doctor, and totally changed everything. But I still have, like with my meds, and it's not right yet, still have really bad anxiety, overthinking. And when I watch your videos and stuff, it really kind of puts stuff in perspective for me. But then I try to talk to my buddies or whatever, and they all think I'm weird because I'm a guy. Because there's such a stigma around mental health and males. But what do you think started, or why do you think the stigma is so strong with mental health right now?
I think the stigma actually has been the most destigmatized it's been ever because of COVID. I think that's like the silver lining.
Yeah.
Stigmatized.
Oh, Hold on, guys. We'll get them right back and see what happened. Wasn't my fault this time. I did not click nothing. All right, hang tight, guys. We'll see if we can get them back and see what happened. All right, well, we'll chill here for a minute. You want to shoot him an email or?
Yeah, let me see if I can get a hold of him.
Let's see what. All right, guys, hang tight. We're going to see if we can reconnect with Zach real quick. Start talking about COVID and they shut him down. Look at that. He mentioned the COVID word and they're like, nope, see ya, dude. Off camera. Man, it was going good too for a minute. I really like this guy. He's a fun guy. If you guys don't follow him on TikTok, it's at MD Motivator. All of his links are in the description of the show. Definitely check it out. Because he has some cool stuff, dude. And some of his videos, I'll show some of his videos here in a little bit once we get him on. Hope we can get him back on. Here we go.
Is there?
Oh,
I'm back.
there you
There
go.
you are.
That's all right. I figured you're coming back.
So I left this computer a year ago, and this is the first time ever my computer just shut down. So
No.
perfect timing for this.
It happens. It's all good, dude. That's what's fun about doing these live, because then when I upload this, no one will even know it happened.
Yeah.
What happened? Right?
Cut it in the middle. All right, dude, go ahead.
Yes, we answered the question about stigmatization around mental health. And I think the stigmatization, it depends, right? Like if you're talking from a cultural standpoint, male versus female perspective standpoint, there's so much that goes into it. And I think the more that it's compounded, right? Like males coming from, let's say, an African background, you can't speak on mental health. Like there's so much more there. And I think the more we destigmatize it, the more people are allowed to come out and talk about it, the lower the suicide rates, the lower the depression will be. Like the reason why females have less suicide rates than males is because they have support systems. They have cliques or groups where they just chat or talk on a daily basis of how they feel and what's going on. So it doesn't suppress to this breaking point where people are like, oh my God, how could you have done that? Or why did you do this? Because it builds, right? Whether you're male, female, you're Asian, you're African-American, you're white, Caucasian, it doesn't matter. We're humans. And I think people say mental health is physical health, right? Like I think it's so important. You don't need to be diagnosed with 4 or 5 mental illnesses to speak on saying I'm struggling, right? Like just speak and less suppression. And I feel like the more yourself and myself create those, like, I guess, gateways, that's why I say vulnerability, relatability, empowerment. The more I'm vulnerable, the more it allows someone else to then feel comfortable to then do the same, to create that for others.
So do you ever think, looking back now, when you first created your TikTok, do you ever think it was going to grow or like to what it has now or what it's, I mean, you're at what, 1.5 mil now?
Yeah. Like I said, I created it with hoping that it would help one person. It was not with the intention of becoming a TikTok guy.
That's awesome. I love the videos too. I mean, because at first you were kind of just doing your own like little things, but now you have like the actual production videos. I was listening to another podcast you were doing, but you were talking about you do a couple of those a day that you film them and then just kind of lay them out. Do you schedule them out for yourself, or how do you kind of work your TikTok page?
Yeah. Now at this point, it's pretty efficient. So one of my best friends lives in Australia. He's a professional videographer. His name's Fabio. So we'll go on these trips, I guess, once every 2 weeks, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes away, because Australia is beautiful, don't get me wrong. And he will do like his like drone work and his videography work, and then we'll create like 10 or 15 TikTok style templates. So I have my video. So then I'll sit back and I'll create them maybe like twice a week for like 2 hours, but I'll have content then for the next 2 weeks essentially. So it's become a much more efficient process. And if you've seen my TikToks, they're very easy to replicate. all you gotta do is like it's always a one take, right? Yeah. So that's why I don't think I'm a TikToker. it's more about the message of what I'm saying, and very fortunate to have someone to help me with the video.
You're almost becoming a voiceover artist now too, in a way, because I mean there'll be tons of videos where I'll just be scrolling through TikTok. I'm like, oh, that's Zachary's voice. I mean, that's one of his things. So like I'll just hear your voice on someone else's video now and stuff. I know right away. So it's really cool to see it. We'll play a couple because I'm gonna pull a couple of the videos out here in a little bit. But yeah, I just want to talk about your growth and everything about it. But kind of like for you, so you just kind of discovered that you had anxiety, just kind of wanted to start to help people, just kind of want to express how you were feeling. That's kind of the path I was kind of taking the last year or so. And I kind of just really used my social media and really just say, hey, this is who I am, and was just really open because I get really bad social anxiety sometimes, even though I'm a very social person. Like I think the last year, the pandemic has really hurt me more just because I love concerts. I love being in like the middle of a pit and just feeling it. That's why I go to express my emotions. I laugh, I cry, everything at concerts. That's what started this podcast pretty much, was to express it and not be able to have that. So do you think this pandemic, I mean, we've already kind of touched on maybe the stigma side of it, but how do you think this pandemic has been causing anxiety in people?
I think I don't even think it's just anxiety. I think it's just magnified everything that's going on in people's lives in terms of mental health. So like, I don't know about yourself, but I have a lot of people in my lives over the last year that they've made these crazy life pivots or dramatic relationship changes, or because you're not able to suppress like those thoughts with like your busy 9 to 5, go, 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 go. You're at home and you're thinking, okay, who am I? Am I happy? Like what am I really doing with my life? And I think those thoughts, although they're great, sometimes they're probably thoughts people haven't had time to think about or wanted to think about in 5-10 years. And then it's just like, holy shit, this is where I'm actually at. So that on top of the fact that now with COVID, especially in the States or Canada, being at home and trapped in loneliness and isolation, we're humans, right? The whole point, like we want connection. And I think we've learned that more than anything, that Zoom or FaceTime or texting is not the same as that real, like the normalcy of human connection that we have lost because of the pandemic. So I think all those things go into factor with the mental health.
Let's see. I was trying to find a quick picture. One of your recent videos that you had out that I really want to talk about. I didn't have the video.
Sure. The Love Yours videos you're referring to?
Well, it was one of the ones where you're out and you're actually you had the sign and people were here blindfolded. It was probably I think these are right. Yeah. So and you're standing in the middle of the street. I guess I don't have that one, but hey, we'll flip through those pictures. I've seen that a lot. And so was that just something you're like, hey, I'm just gonna throw a blindfold on, make a big sign, I'm just gonna see what happens? Okay, was this just a random thing you wanted to try, or?
Yeah, it was just as much like seeing people come up to me as it was like a learning, scary experience for myself, man. Like I don't do that. I'm not that, like, sure, you see me like on Instagram or at the TikTok, but like I'm not that person in real life, or like I don't feel like I'm that super social. So like standing there in the middle of like a mall intersection like this, blindfolded with a sign, talking about depression, anxiety, that was very vulnerable for me. But I felt like putting myself in that vulnerable place, like I said before, it allows others to be vulnerable, hopefully, and know that it was like this. You'll never know who it was. Sorry, I have a mailman. I just have to tell him to leave it at the door. I'm so sorry.
You're all good, buddy.
Hello? Yeah, can you put it onto the bench for me, right beside you? Yes. Thank you so much. All right. But yeah, as like even yesterday, I don't know if you saw, I had my first ever TV interview where we discussed the Love Yours series. And dude, that
was your first ever TV interview for that?
Yeah, I've never done a TV interview.
Dude, that's badass, dude.
Well, that was like a really cool experience, and just grateful. So
dude, that's badass, dude. That's so cool. Yeah, when you messaged me, I'm like, dude, you do your thing, man. Go. We got tomorrow night. We'd be good.
Let's go. Yeah, because we were supposed to do this. Yeah, yesterday. Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go ahead and play a little bit of this video real quick.
This all the most humanly thing.
Kind of like what we were just talking about.
Connection. This lack of connection has caused us to feel isolated and struggle with our own mental health now more than ever. So this afternoon, I wrote and handed out messages of hope. Let this be your sign to perform one simple act of kindness. One stranger, one smile. Please love one another. The world needs it now.
Yeah. She muted my mic. We had a little bit of feedback on there. I fixed that halfway through, but so stuff like that. And what really got me with like this video here was just like, I could put myself in that situation. At work the other day, we were shorthanded. This guy walked in. I'm like, oh man, I could hug you right now. He's just like, put his arms out. I was like, fuck yeah, dude. And I gave him a hug just because that's the first person I've hugged in forever. Like, just like not a stranger, but a coworker. And just like, dude, I could see how standing in the middle of a mall, blindfold or not, having that sign, like if I saw a guy, I'd probably walk up and hug him right about now because you haven't had that. Like I miss like meeting somebody for the first time and give them the handshake that means it's personable with people. I miss people like read sometimes and see people's faces and everything else. So I really hope it gets back to normal eventually. But
yeah, and the cool thing, because I don't think I've ever shared this before. The cool thing about those videos, it wasn't even the videos. It was, and I didn't even know about this until my friends told me afterwards. Like examples would be this like 60-year-old man that stood in front of me with my blindfold on and just stood there for like 45 seconds thinking, should he hug me? And then eventually hugging me. Or like a guy, a boyfriend and a girlfriend. And the girlfriend went to go give me a hug. And the boyfriend's like, no, don't do it. And the girlfriend's like, no, I'm going to. And then she inevitably hugged me. And like just humans being humans.
Yeah.
Like it was so cool to see. And like we just love. And I think we've like anxiety and like the lack of our like being social again. We've lost that. But I think, yeah, if that could help one person, then that was awesome. It helped me. So there's the one person that at least helped.
Dude, you're helping a hell of a lot more than one. I could tell you that for sure, man. Just there's kind of just ever since I saw it, like I said, the whole growth and everything. I wanted to talk about this. I had this up real quick. Hide this one down so we can kind of see the whole thing. So this is how it looks: outgoing, confident, how it feels, over talking because you're anxious. So this is like me to the point because I am I feel like I'm very outgoing, confident, but I feel like I overthink and I over talk. I think, or I say things a lot of times before I think about them. That could get me in trouble a lot, and it has. My wife's over here shaking her head. But so I mean, with that kind of anxiety and stuff like this, when I read stuff like this that you put out, I feel like that's me. Like, and that's why I feel like I want to bring you on and really talk about this. Last season, I had a guy that was really on with ADHD, but when I think of music too, I listen to music because it really talks about who I am and stuff that's relatable. But that's why I kind of connect with you a lot because you're talking about almost like my life and what I'm dealing with. And then you kind of say ways that I could kind of think, oh man, I am overthinking this situation really too much. But for you, are you more of an overthinker?
Yeah, overthinking is probably my biggest issue. And I think the more I've learned I still do journal, on top of doing it, meditating and trying to be active every single day and having a strong support system. But I find that the more I write things down, the less. So if I have three thoughts, if I don't write them down, I'll think about them 100 times. So now there are 300 thoughts and I'm thinking about them so much. I'm not thinking about how to actually solve them or one possible solution or what's the worst case scenario. And I find that if I can just tangibly write down A, B, and C, these are the 3 thoughts. This is one thing I can do for A, one thing I can do for B, one thing I can do for C to create actionable change. Then a lot of that, for me personally, it gets alleviated. And I noticed that since I started doing that, knowing that I have that to fall back on lessens it even more. So it's about, I guess, experimenting and finding the tool set or your toolkit that works for you. And I get a lot of hate, I guess, on these videos or these photos you're referring to, high functioning anxiety, because a lot of people say that, like, okay, that's very common. Like, high functioning anxiety is not a clinical diagnosis. Why I think it's important to talk about high functioning anxiety is because if it impacts you on a daily basis to the point where it's affecting your day to day, then it's important, right? Like, we all experience certain things, but if it's affecting you every single day, then go seek support, then find out what you need, what you can do to not feel those things on a daily basis.
When you first mentioned high functioning anxiety, before I even saw a video about just hearing that statement, I was like, oh yeah, that's me. Because I don't ever stop. I might sleep 3-4 hours a night on sometimes, but I'm always working, dude. I always got to be doing something. I can't ever just shut off. Like, it's really hard for me just to turn everything off. I won't play this video real quick. This a little bit of this high functioning anxiety video for you guys.
Signs you have high functioning anxiety. You're a high achiever, but you overthink. You are good under pressure and work hard, but you still procrastinate. You know you are capable, but you still don't fully believe in yourself. You are driven and have ambition, but you fear failure and embarrassment. And you want to be social, but when the time comes, you feel dread and want to cancel.
My wife's like shaking her head. What are you shaking your head about? No. So when I saw that, I was like, damn, all right, you just nailed me. The whole thing, I was just like, dude, that's just like who I am. And I want to achieve, but I always think that like I want to do good, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to fail. Like I want to please everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm always the one that making sure everybody else is good, happy, and I always forget about myself in the end. But I still come around. But how do you tell people really that have this kind of stuff, the high functioning anxiety? How do you kind of maybe get it down to less high anxiety?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Before I answer that question, I want to kind of flip it back on you and ask, what have you noted that either helps you with your anxiety or people pleasing? And then people in the chat right now too, I see people putting 100%. If they can put maybe one or two things that helps them alleviate or at least suppress that anxiety, and then I can answer it too. I want to hear yours first.
To tell you the truth with me, I don't know how being a doctor, I don't know what side of the fence you fall on this. About a year and a half ago, I got my medical marijuana card, and I use some forms of cannabis, and I actually end up getting a few months after I got that card, I ended up getting a job at the dispensary. Now that is now my 9 to 5. I help medical patients in the state of Illinois kind of find relief and give them find different things that they could like, either it be a edible or a cream or something like that. So I found some forms of that has really helped me. Say someone in the chat saying CBD, and that's another thing. I've really focused with CBD and really learned about that a little bit more on the dispensary side of things, not the dollar video gas station CBD that you have everywhere else. But so that for me is, but I don't know. I feel like I do a lot of my own. My ADHD, I know, is not for everybody. Like who I am is not for everybody. I try to please everybody, but I know I'm way too much for people at times. So like I'm way overboard. And I think that scares people away. I've lost a lot of friends in my 38 years. I've lost a few good friends, probably because of it. So I'm still kind of figuring out how to suppress high functioning anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of things, right? I find that the people who are the most empathetic and I guess caring or giving, like yourself, they're helping others so much that they're not spending time on themselves, right? Or they're doing it to suppress their own feelings or thoughts of actually having to go through it, helping others go through something that they don't want to take care of themselves. So I find like I can relate first and foremost. CBD, I am not going to come on your podcast and talk about CBD. I can understand the pros of it 100%. But it's not my place.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified. I'm not going to say anything on that. But I get it. In terms of what helps me with my anxiety, it goes back to what I was saying about the whole blood clot situation. Before the blood clot, I was so like, these are the problems, these are the solutions, this is my 1-year plan, this is my 3-year plan, my 5-year plan, and just like, has to be this, has to be this, has to be this. Versus now, I know my goal is I want to help as many people as I possibly can, and I always want to be vulnerable and real. And if there's opportunities that align with that, if there's things, I'm always going to say yes to those things. But I know there will always be more work. I know there will always be something else I could be doing or getting to. But each day setting not these over lofty optimistic goals, but like 3 basic goals of what I want to get done that day. If I can get those done, sit back aware for like a minute, 2 minutes and be like, wow, I did that today. Amazing. Good job, Zach, or good job, Aaron. And just congratulating and appreciating the small wins and knowing that, right, Aaron? Like, I don't care how, like, that's the issue with TikTok or Instagram. The more I was growing, the more I wanted to grow, right? And the more it's like, the more. And it's just like always doing more, you always can do more. So I was more so just coming to terms with the fact that setting these basic goals daily, setting this macro like life goal, I guess, of what I want to do as of right now, but know that there's always life and things that come up in between that derail you or change your path, and being okay with that. that's a long-winded answer, but I hope that.
No, yeah. I know RJ saying exercise works best. I've been thinking about that. For me, I just take on more projects and I get overwhelmed. So my a lot of my anxiety, what I say is high function anxiety, leads to me just being very overwhelmed and I break down. I'll have to-do list, and if my to-do list is too long and I know I'm getting ready to start like a 3 or 4 day run at work, like I'll freak out. And I've been having for a while, I had nighttime panic attacks. So I still do every now and then, but they'll be weird because I'll go to sleep, I'll be fine. I'll wake up like in the middle of a panic attack, like something in my sleep triggers it. And I'm still trying to figure that out and see. But what I've noticed lately and what I really don't like about me having anxiety and everything else is I've been seeing it a lot in my son too. I have a 6-year-old and he is really developing, I think, early forms of anxiety. How do you think is something I could do to better myself around him to kind of mask my anxiety a little bit? Or what can I do to talk to him?
I wouldn't even say mask it, but I think find ways that help you and give a good example, right? Easier said than done, I know. But I think it goes back to what you were saying, right? You would create these to-do lists for the next few days, and you know it. You said yourself, it's too much to get done with the work schedule. So I think it's about creating these to-do lists, creating these hourly time block schedules, and then over time, whether it's a day, a week, a month, they just become much more realistic to a point where you're setting these goals. So there's obviously a transitionary period, but not overdoing it. Like easier said than done, I know, but I think it's more so about setting those goals and what RJ said. So like exercise, eating well, putting your phone away, not waking up to your phone and instantly checking your notifications and being glued to this screen, meditating. So if you guys don't meditate, calm or headspace, good 5 minutes to start your morning to put yourself in a still space, and getting outside, connecting with your loved one, just small things, but doing like 3 of those, I guess, a day can really shift your perspective on how anxious you may be.
So another thing that I was talking about, like kind of seeing my son developing in him at 6, and I think back at when I was young, just kind of like as far back as I could think. And you have a video here I want to play real quick about childhood trauma that I just want to play this real quick.
Yeah.
I do not know who needs to hear this, but severe early childhood trauma creates a child with equally intense coping mechanisms. These children are often seen as mature for their age and old souls. While maybe true, this often negates that their innocence was taken away at an early age and they are always in survival mode.
So something like that, like I'm an only child, but when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's another thing that touched me. But I think about my son, and he's very mature for being 6, and I'm an old soul too. And I feel like that's where he's kind of, and I hear videos like that, and I feel like it started very young. And I don't know, that's why I want to kind of really talk to you about like kind of like the child thing I had before and everything. Cause I feel like it started for me around the same age as starting for him now when I think back and just think of different things. And I don't know if it's the same feeling I'm getting now. Like I said, sometimes I feel lonely. Like I look at it as I have a shit ton of online friends. Like I have a lot of online friends, but in real life, I feel like I don't really have anybody I can just kind of text like, hey, you want to go grab a drink or something? Like, man, I don't drink anymore, but just go hang out and shoot some pool or something. Like I don't feel like I don't really, like I know when my wife and I get arguments, it'd be like, oh, you go down the street and see your best friend. Like my best friend lives a couple hours away type thing. So I feel like that's for me a lot of it where kind of drives me anxiety because I really don't have someone to like talk to when I need to. But for you, what kind of childhood trauma do you think would start stuff like this?
Yeah, I think there's a large range of question answers there, right? So it could be divorce, it could be socioeconomic, it could be like financial standpoint, it could be sexual abuse, it could be being bullied as a child severely, it could be, right? There's so many things. And usually one of those things isn't one, it's compounded, right? It's multiple at once, which makes it overwhelming and anxious. So I think, if you're a child going through the trauma, first off, you're probably not aware, right, at that age, what you're going through, and you just think maybe it's normal or this is something that like what life is, or just, and you don't have that outlet to go seek support, right? Your family is your support, which makes this even more challenging. So if it's a really young age, I don't really have an answer. I know once teenagers, especially now with Generation Z, they're much more outspoken and much more aware, smarter than just smarter than I was at that age. And now with social media, knowing how to talk to your doctor or how to speak up to a parent who doesn't listen, or there's so much out there now that if you wanted to create that change, social media is actually allowed a lot of teenagers to get through that. Yeah, that's what actually a positive that I see of
social media can be so good and so bad. It can
both
go
ends.
so many
Really
times.
to be both ways.
All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to throw this video on real quick. Another one. Let me go.
6 early signs that you are having mental burnout. You have trouble focusing or remembering things. You feel a sense of failure or self-doubt. You lack motivation or just feel helpless, trapped, or defeated. You feel detached from others, sometimes like you're alone in the world. You feel more negative about any work you produce, and you are irritated and snap a lot quicker than usual.
So another video that I think you hit me on the head, like irritated, snap, sometimes like I get like that, and it's like I get irritated at times. And the mental burnout I was talking about, like how I have the panic attacks where I'll have my to-do list and I won't be able. So I kind of run through everything in my head and I'll just keep doing it, and I can't turn off at nighttime, and I get overwhelmed and everything else. But the feel detached alone, like I was talking about. So for you, what really are good ways to kind of dig yourself out of the mental burnout?
Yeah, I think structure, perspective, having a support system. Like I remember when I was like first going through this, and like I was in my relationship in the past, I would be irritated, snap, or just like because I was disorganized, or I put too much on my plate, or like just it. And then once she created a structure for me, or like I saw it as this bigger picture, okay, great, it's not done in a day, it's gonna take 3 days, or it didn't turn out this way, it's gonna turn out this way. Just coming to that realization, it's very calming. So I think it goes back to what I was saying about being okay with things not always panning out the way you envisioned, and really reminding yourself that on a daily basis, that you're doing the best you can with what you have. Really like believing that, and then like expressing how you feel. Because I don't know about yourself, but for me, before, when I would be like insecure or angry or negative and all these like emotions that are on like the negative side, I'd bottle them up to a point where it's like eventually someone would say something, or it would be a breaking point, right? And then you're like, all these things are coming out, but where'd they come from? Because I wasn't comfortable enough, because I was afraid of how people would perceive me if I showed those emotions earlier on. And I think that's what anxiety, a lot of it comes from, right? Is how we believe we're perceived by others, or how others are going to see us or envision us, or like whatever that is from an other's perspective. And once we stop caring about how others feel about us or think about us, and I don't mean that in like a non-loving way, but once we're just okay with who we are and we're focused on that, I noticed that a lot has changed. And that's why, it's another reason why I call it You Matter Most. It's like prioritizing you.
Oh yeah, and I love the line that you do with that, and the hashtag, the YMM, and you have the podcast now, which I love it. I think you guys got about 4 episodes out of the podcast. Phenomenal. If you guys have not heard it, definitely check out the description. All the notes tonight. You could definitely check out all the places to find Zachary. Another thing you posted, we're just talking, or I show up here on the screen, is what others might not realize about anxiety, because there was such a stigma, and a lot of people don't realize of it. If someone notices that you are not okay and shows their concern, your anxiety actually increases. That's another thing. If people kind of really notices that you're down and says something to you, and you really don't want somebody's help or don't want somebody to say something. There's a Rob Thomas song that I've kind of mentioned a lot of times. I love. I always kind of turn to music, but I think there's a "You Can't Help Me Now." It's definitely a mental health song that Rob Thomas has always written about mental health for years, even with Matchbox. But check that out, guys, if you guys have not heard that song. It's another one, because I always look for music. So you're asking ways how I cope. I guess music too, in a way. Let's go. When you make a mistake at work or school, you will think about it all day, and you might find it hard to handle. That's another thing I beat myself up a lot about when I make a mistake. It's kind of hard to really overcome it. Maybe another day or two afterwards I can, but if you text someone and they don't reply, or you start to think that you said or did something wrong, I'm one of these guys that don't reply. I reply in my head sometimes, but I'm like that, like where I'll get on, not getting on to my wife, but like if I send her something, it's a couple hours, I'll be like, well, what the hell? Is she mad at me? Or I have anxiety like that with friends too, where I'll text them, be like, oh, I wonder why they're not texting back. And I think you said you had another video where you're talking about like nighttime anxiety or something, and that was another thing you mentioned where it was texting people at night and wasn't getting back to you. I think it was. So let's see what's this next slide. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Dude, this one right here is so powerful because you don't know. You do not know who is going through what, and just holding a door for someone and saying, hey, how are you doing today, might be huge for somebody that might be fighting something in their head that they don't know. If you guys have never seen Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park did a video where he just said where he tries to stay busy because he didn't know it was hard turning off his head. So anytime you could really just kind of make someone smile other than where and get them out of their head is always the best place, I feel. And then the last one, you might be appear outgoing and confident, but often you are over talking because you're anxious. Definitely me. Like I say, I say things before I think, and I over talk. I don't want to say I overshare, but like I don't know. I'll repeat myself a lot. So are those things that you found yourself doing that you really wanted to kind of touch on, and that's why you were creating these, or were you just things that you've learned from people messaging you?
Yeah, mixture. I've learned a lot over the past year, but those things are something I definitely experienced, I'd say, more so a few years ago. And just like experience, but like accepted them as being normal or okay when they're not. So I think speaking on them and just being like people saying, holy smokes, that's the same as me. And just recognizing like social proof that they're not alone is like, okay, so I'm not the only one here, and maybe I can seek support or find ways to get better and have confidence knowing that I'm not the only one that's, I guess, trapped in my own head. Whether that's like how many hours of sleep am I going to get that night? Why didn't they text me back? Or whatever that is. There's so many different tools that you can incorporate that work completely different for every single person.
Yeah, oh, I totally agree. I'm going to play this last video before we move on.
Don't get mad. I'm just being honest. This is one of the most frustrating things about having an anxiety disorder. Knowing as you are freaking out that there is no reason to be freaking out, but lacking the ability to shut the emotion down. Listen again.
So yeah, this is definitely one thing that I wanted to close on. There we go. I'm having trying hard time muting you at first. I was like, oh no. So that's me. When I have these panic attacks at nighttime, I don't know what caused them, why I'm having them. And my wife does everything she can to try to help me out. And I'm freaking out and I just don't know why. And for you, have you ever been in those situations? What have you done to come out of them? Because they can last an hour or two for me. And it's just like, there'll be times where I'm just pacing the house, dude. And I don't know why or anything else or why I'm feeling this way, but I just can't just turn it off.
Yeah.
I feel like it could be a chemical imbalance sometimes if I forget my meds for a couple nights, that maybe that could cause it, but there has to be a better way or a way to kind of really shut these off, I would hope.
Yeah. I think that video is about being, I guess, hyper self-aware, right? Of you're going through something, you know it, but you know you shouldn't be feeling it, which just escalates it further. Fortunately, I've never experienced a panic attack. I can't imagine what that would feel like. In regards to nighttime anxiety and having those thoughts reoccur, for me, limiting my caffeine before bed, putting on my favorite song, laying down on a cold ground for like 5 minutes or in a dark space, box breathing, which if you haven't heard of is really good too, or look that up after this. You can look that up. Box breathing is incredible. And the other thing that I actually use a lot is, for me, meditating. So I'll meditate in the morning for 5 minutes. I'll meditate at night for 5 minutes just to be still so I can recenter myself or equilibrate. I can't equilibrate. Can't even think of a word, but get in a good state before I start my day and before I go to bed. So, but I said like 7 or 8 things there. And I think it's just finding the one that works for Aaron or for Robert or RJ or Nicole, until you find it, just being okay with experimenting and seeking the support that can help you find that.
Yeah, definitely want to try more meditation techniques and stuff, because I think that for me would help shut off like my brain. I think it would just, because like I said, I'm overwhelmed. I'm thinking about all the things I need to get done or need to get or do. And I think if I could just kind of shut that part off at nighttime, it'd really help, because
Absolutely.
I said I feel like it could be a chemical imbalance too, but eventually I want to be off like these anxiety meds that I'm on. Like I don't want to be on them all the time. I want to be off like my ADHD meds eventually. So I'm really working towards that down the road, but not there just quite yet. So, all right, guys, we're going to move on to our next segment real quick. It is our pod deck segment. So earlier today, I pulled 2 cards. Actually, we're going to go ahead and play the audio real quick. Give us 20 seconds.
This episode is powered by Pod Decks. Pod Decks are unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you're a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience and have more meaningful conversations, you're going to want to check out Pod Decks. Now, if you want to get 10% off your order right now, you can go to poddecks.com and type in coupon code. What's the code?
Fast on Memphis.
Yes, that's the code. Check out poddecks.com. Take your podcast to the next level.
The haunting voice of my old co-producer. He left after last season a couple weeks ago. He's moving out to Texas. He's an old radio DJ, and he took a program directing gig out in Texas. So awesome for him. So, but I told him, I'm never going to change that. I'm going to leave your voice in there so I always remember you. So earlier, I pulled the cards I pulled for Zachary are one. I can't even read my own words. When have you pulled off the impossible, and how did you make it happen? Which I'm sure you pulled off a few of these, but what for you have you done that was impossible, and how did you do it?
I guess failing out of college and getting kicked out and then making it to medical school. That would be probably the first one that comes to mind. I wouldn't say it's impossible. It was just like, how did I do it? I found myself. I found forms of motivation. I found how to study. I found the right mentors, and I found the right passion, which was through my own personal experiences with medicine and like my health conditions or health concerns, and then clinical experiences of working and volunteering in the healthcare space to know that this is the right thing.
Dude, I honestly, just to feed off that, I gotta give you guys props. My wife's a nurse. She's not too many credits away from master's, I think. And see, just watching what she went through with nursing school, I can only imagine what you guys do with doctor school and all that other stuff. But dude, yeah, she's laughing at me. I don't know the whatever jargon. You guys work your asses off though, for what you got, and I know you deserve it. So definitely nurses, doctors, they don't get much love, dude, as a lot of the other first responders out there do and stuff. So definitely love to you guys for what you guys do every day. I know at work when I see people coming in scrubs, I'm like, you a nurse? They're like, yeah. I was like, definitely. Give me a fist pump or whatever. I know what you all go through, what you did go through to get where you are. How much schooling do you have left into your done?
I have 2.5 years until I would start my residency. Okay. And that would determine, I don't know if I'm going to stay in Australia or go back to North America, what specialty I'm going to choose. Psychiatry I'm leaning towards. But as I said before, things change, life changes. Just keep on doing the right things and working hard. And things
what took you out to Australia?
When I did my degree back home in Canada, I did a 6-month exchange over in Australia. And I fell in love with it here. So I came back with the intention to not just study, but to practice and live out here because I love the lifestyle and the weather. And
my cousin's in Melbourne. She's been out there 5 years, I think now or so. And she just loves it. I want to go out and visit her one day, but I don't know if I can do it.
Once COVID's over, you can definitely go to Australia.
Dude, I would love to. So the second card I pulled, and before we move on to our hot seat questions, it's kind of just a typical question, but kind of how does Zachary overcome a bad day?
I don't believe in bad days. I believe in bad situations. I think that's the biggest thing. Going back to being grateful and self-aware. Like I said, I spend 1 to 2 minutes every day being like, okay, I got these things done. I'm grateful for these things. Like I said, I meditate, I work out. Like whenever I'm in a bad mental space, I will always find a way to prioritize either exercising or cooking or doing something for me, like some form of self-love to bring myself back, because when I'm in that bad space, working more and working myself into this turmoil, it's going to just put me in a worse place and just toxic for me. So I think always prioritizing. So I'll post like TikToks or Instagrams or like gym photos, or like just like at the gym, it's like people message me, how do you do this in medical school? You should be studying. It's like, no, I should prioritize myself in all stages of my life. And if my schedule, you can always accommodate and make your schedule do that if you prioritize you and then build your schedule around that. So I think that's probably one of the most important pieces. For me to overcome a bad day. There's bad points and I just become aware of it and find ways to combat it.
It's kind of, I mean, kind of what you were just saying, almost in a way. I had shared this earlier, this quote that you had up there. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, some talk to you in their free time, and some free their time to talk to you and learn the difference. I mean, really, priorities, man. Just as long as you know how to prioritize things, I think that kind of.
Yeah, that's about others, but this what we're talking about right now is about yourself. The exact same thing.
Exactly, dude.
And there's actually one piece of advice that I would love to give really quick that I found helps when you're having a bad day. So I'm super structured in terms of like my schedule and my calendar, but your emotions aren't, right? So an example was I was talking to a psychiatrist in Melbourne last year about it. So let's just give an example. It's Thursday, 6:36 p.m. and I'm feeling really bad, feeling really anxious, whatever it is. The emotion hits me at 6:36. I'll go to my phone and I'll set an alarm for 7:06 p.m. So for 30 minutes, I'll listen to music, I'll cry, I'll let myself feel, I'll go on Pinterest, I'll do whatever I want to like let myself feel. But then at 7:06, I'll wash my face, I'll text my mom, I'll cook a PB&J, or I'll go to the gym. Just some small micro goal to allow myself to transition so that 30 minutes doesn't become that day, that week, but also I didn't suppress that feeling so it doesn't build. So there was that fine line in setting these micro goals that helped me a lot. Like going back to what I was saying, not having a bad day, just having that bad moment or 30 minutes if your schedule, or find a way to accommodate that for your life. That helped me a lot.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, man. Before we wrap up and I let you go for the night, I got 10 questions. This is really rapid fire hot seat game that we'll play. First thing that comes to mind, just go ahead and spit it out. But what's your favorite hobby?
Basketball.
All right. Well, the most annoying bill you have to pay?
Internet.
What poster was on your bedroom wall in middle school?
Don't know. It was a Kobe Bryant quote.
Oh, hell yeah. The strangest thing you've ever seen in the middle of the road?
A chicken.
All right. Well, what's one word, or what word do you have the hard? Oh, what word? God, I can't read this. What word do you have the hardest time spelling?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
All right. What's one thing people buy that you think is a waste of money?
Water bottles.
All right. What is your kryptonite?
Kryptonite's like what's like going my like Achilles heel?
Yeah.
Pizza.
All right. One thing you did a year ago that you do different today?
Take care of myself.
What is something you don't mind paying more money for?
Good basketball seats.
All right. And then the last one is an item that's still on your bucket list, something you might want to accomplish in your lifetime or do or see.
Antarctica.
Oh, man, dude, I would love, man, that'd be awesome. I just want to get to Alaska sometime. That'd be cool, too.
Absolutely.
Or Australia, man. So, but Zachary, dude, thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we let you go? If you guys are looking for Zachary, go ahead and look in the description. All of his links are there where to find them. But any final thoughts, buddy?
Just want to thank you, Aaron, and your wife for your time. Really appreciate this opportunity. And if you guys are struggling with your mental health, or this past year has been challenging or more challenging than normal, just want to let you know that you are not alone. This whole episode is about mental health, and whether you're male, female, finding the support that you deserve is everything. And I wish you nothing but love and happiness.
Oh, man, dude, thank you so much for spending the hour of your time. I'm glad we finally got to have this episode, and best way to kick off my 4th season. So, but thank you so much, dude. And we'll talk soon, dude. We'll definitely have to reconnect down the road sometime. So,
absolutely. We'll talk soon, Aaron.
Good luck at everything you do, and keep kicking ass, dude. And thank you for what you are doing. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. You too, Aaron. Bye, guys.
Good night. Have a good day.
I will.
It's Thursday in Australia, y'all. So, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and we can bring you on for a minute. How'd you do over there?
I had a few stampers, but I think I did not too bad.
Yeah, you're all right.
Okay.
You did all right tonight. So it was definitely a fun episode, guys. I kind of want to do every season, at least do one or two kind of more personable episodes. Last season, I had one about ADHD a little bit. This month, I really want to have somebody on that was about anxiety and mental health. I really think that's something that's grown a lot over the last year. And like he said, I do think the stigma has become less and less. I think things are becoming less stigmatized, if that's a word, in general. So across the board, and we'll see where that keeps going. Anything you want to add on to tonight?
No, I think it's important. I think it's really good that you did this topic. I think it's hard, not just for the people going through it, but for the people who, you know, who support them and who are family. And so it's good for them to understand what people go through who have anxiety or mental health issues, because it is really hard for people who don't have as many issues to understand what people go through. So
Exactly.
I think that Zachary did a really good job, and he does a good job of portraying that in words and painting a picture for people who don't necessarily have those feelings.
Oh yeah, his videos just the videos, like I said, some are voiceovers. If you guys are on TikTok or Instagram, definitely go and follow him, follow what he does, listen to his podcast, check it out. It was awesome. Yeah, it was amazing having him. So, but yeah, let's see. Let's go ahead. I'll take you off.
Bye.
We'll go ahead and do that. But thank you guys for joining us tonight for episode 76. I couldn't think of a better way to kick off our season 4, our fourth season. It's kind of like read the teleprompter, kick off season 4. No, mental health is a huge struggle for many of us. And if we don't talk to others about it, then I don't think we can ever overcome the struggles. So before I'm going to say this, but then before we play all the outro, I'm going to play one last video of Zachary's and then we're going to let you guys go. But definitely take care. Do one thing positive for someone tomorrow. And we'll see you guys next week for sure.
If you had 24 hours left to live, what are 3 things that you would do? Take 3 seconds to think about that. 1, 2, 3. So then my question to you is, why aren't you doing that right now?
The Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast with Aaron Shriver is brought to you by Arlo Revolution. As we close the book on another chapter, remember, music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Next week, Aaron connects more melodies and memories with other fans and the artists they love. Thanks for being a part of this musical journey, and we'll see you next time on the Gainin Fast on Memphis podcast with Aaron Shriver.